to the dark heart of Rome. My name is Graham. I'm your tour guide for the evening. Originally I'm from Napa, California, but I've been here for the last 4 years doing tours like this, day and night, in and out. Our tour today is going to be about the things that you don't hear about on other tours. It's going to be about misbehaving popes. It's going to be about public executions and ghosts. You don't hear about that on any other tour. Now our tour altogether is going to be about an hour and a half long. We do not end here. Instead, we are going to end our tour at Castel San Angelo. Now, if you guys need directions on how to get back home, don't worry. I'll tell you at the end of the tour, because if I told you now, you'll completely forget how to get back home. So, don't worry. You're in my capable hands. Let's head this way here, guys. Let's go over to Campo di Fiore, our first site. Go right this way. Because those green things that you see back there, during the daytime they're opened up and it's all full of flowers. It's Europe's longest continuous running flower market. Since the 1300s they've been selling flowers here. However, this is called the Dark Heart of Rome. It's about ghosts and mysteries. Guys, we're not talking about flowers the rest of this tour. Instead, let's take a look at the man that we see right there. And that is Giordano Bruno. Giordano Bruno looks like a See, Giordano Bruno was a monk in the 1500s down in Naples. And he not only agreed with Copernicus' point of view, but because of Roger's son, he's going to go and take that further and say, well, all the stars that you see in the sky, each one of those can be their own sun. Like if he plants for us and puts pen to paper and says, they exist, I believe. So, about him, he invents the idea of aliens. So about him, however, in the 1500s, this was a very unpopular idea. In the 1500s, we're doing a little something called the Counter-Reformation. The Protestant Reformation, roughly half of the Christians, half the Catholic Church became Protestants, and they're arguing about who's in charge of the souls on earth. Well, you can't agree with who's in charge of souls on earth, then who's in charge of souls on other planets? We don't want to get into that kind of an argument, and so they just simply excommunicate Giordano Bruno. What's he going to do? What's an excommunicated monk from Naples going to do? He goes to Germany, the heart of the Protestant Reformation. Over the course of his next 25 years, Giordano Bruno is going to write more than 20 books. Now these books are all about challenging conventional wisdom, challenging the way you think about things. One of these books, though, tackles how we think about religion, and including the infamous lines, the Virgin Mary most certainly was not, and Jesus was nothing more than a talented magician. If you're looking to get back into the good graces of the Catholic Church, probably not the things that you should be writing down. Eventually, he wears out his welcome in Germany. He's kicked out and he moves down to Venice, where he's going to be tutoring a man for a little while before they get into an argument about money, most likely. And the man turns him into the Catholic authorities. The Catholic Church takes him down here to Rome and throws him into the Castel San Angelo, where he will spend the rest of his days. For the next 6 years of his life, Giordano Bruno is tortured each and every day as the church tries to get him to recant what he wrote down. He refuses to do so, and they get really medieval style torture. It's maybe the late 1500s, the late Renaissance I'm talking about here. They take his fingernails one by one and things like that. And really, really gruesome stuff. Finally, after 6 years, they go up to Giordano Bruno and they let him know, look, Giordano, it's been 6 years. This isn't going to end well for you. But you take back everything we've said, we'll hang you and the whole thing will be over in a matter of seconds. He still refuses to go back on what he had written down, and so they let him know, they inform him that he will be burnt at the stake. Giordano Bruno's famous last words, I believe you are more afraid to cast this judgment on me than I am to receive it. Early in the morning of February 14th in the year 1600, Giordano Bruno is brought down here to Campo di Fiore and he's going to be burnt at the stake. Unannounced, people around the square had no idea what was going to be happening that day. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think if somebody burnt at the stake, tied to a stake, they're doused in pitch or oil, and they're lit on fire, the whole thing's over in a few minutes, right? And that's not how they do it. No, instead they tie you to a stake, and then they plant a small campfire underneath your feet. Essentially, they slow roast you. So Giordano Bruno would be roasted. They say he was charred roughly up to his waist by the time he finally died. Now then, why on earth would we have a statue dedicated to a man burnt at the stake by the Catholic Church? Well, believe it or not, Giordano Bruno becomes the image of the freedom of speech, and in 1870, Rome became a part of Italy. That's right. Before that, it was its own independent state, and you know who was in charge? The popes. It was called the Papal States. There's an actual gun battle between the popes and the Pope's Swiss Guards and the Risorgimento army. The Swiss Guards lose. The Pope locks himself inside of the Vatican and refuses to come out, and also excommunicates anyone who supports the Italian government. You voted for the Italian government, you were kicked out of the Catholic Church. Considering today that roughly 80% of Italians identify themselves as Catholic, you can imagine this was pretty rough conflict of interests. So to remind everyone, the Catholic Church hasn't been all hugs and smiles. The Italian nation is going to go ahead and put statues like this up. Giordano Bruno, by the way, as the crow flies, looks directly at the Vatican City. Went all the way straight there. You'd end up at the Pope's front porch. It has a good ending though, guys. In the year 2000, 400 years after he was burned at the stake, Pope John Paul II issued a formal apology. Dear Giordano, sorry we burnt you at the stake. Turns out you were right. Our bad. So that's the great thing about the Catholic Church, guys. If you believe in an everlasting soul, it doesn't matter if you apologize 4 days, 4 years, or in this case, 4 centuries down the road, it still counts. So that's the story of the statue of Giordano Bruno, always watching over Campo di Fiore. That's Sunday night, so it's a little quieter than it usually is, but Campo di Fiore is definitely a hustling, bustling square. It's one of the busiest actually in the center. Let's go around the corner over to Piazza Farnese, where it'll be nice and calmer, a little bit quieter. Your good section of town, your bad section of town. So we just passed by the Palazzo Farnese, and then there was the Galleria Spada as well. I don't know if you guys noticed that, the big white building with all the statues on it. Beautiful building. But then down this alleyway right here, just around the corner from it, you would have had low rent houses. This is where your average person would be living. And we didn't have really good garbage services in those days. In the old days, you were supposed to take your garbage out past Trastevere to Testaccio, where the dump was. That's a long ways. You know what's a lot easier? Just leaving it in the streets. Dump it out of your window, and the trash will pile up a little bit. Now, here in Rome, we have ridiculously hot summers. We average about 35 degrees Celsius day in and day out, which would be, for my American friends, somewhere in around the 100-degree range, day in, day out. So now you have hot trash piles. We're right next to a river. You know what happens when you have warm trash and a river? You get rats in that trash. And so, we poison the trash. And now you have trash and dead rats. So, poor people, they don't own the place, they're not too connected with it, they could really care less. But imagine you're trying to have a big, lavish Renaissance party in your home, and it just stinks like hot trash and dead rats. I mean, no one's going to want to show up, right? What are you going to do? How are you going to clean up the neighborhood? You're going to donate a large sum of money to the city of Rome and be named as the president of the streets. And then you can put a sign like this up. By the expressed order of the illustrious and revered president of the street, it is expressly prohibited for any person to make trash in the area under the penalty of 10 scudi or an arbitrary other penalty. What's a scudi? A scudo. That's what we used to use for money. Nowadays it doesn't mean anything, but in those days, 10 scudi would be roughly 3 months' salary for the average person living in these apartments. So it's a big, hefty fine, right? Meanwhile, it's 1741 when the sign is put up. What do you suppose the literacy rate of Rome was in 1741, right? So of course they can read as they see it, they're like, oh, that's a nice sign. They go upstairs, start making some dinner, start throwing some stuff out the window, and the next thing they know, it's the police. Did you make trash? Well, yeah, I'm making dinner. Ah, you didn't read the new sign. Of course, I can't read. That's now a 10 scudi fine. Now guys, most people don't have 3 months' salary saved up for some stupid littering fund they didn't realize. So of course the man says, I can't afford that. Good. Fortunately for you, we can settle this with an arbitrary other penalty. And typically what that would be is they'd hang you up by your arms for about 8 hours in front of where the sign is. You see, that way, the people in the neighborhood who can't read can see you. Giovanni, what are you doing up there? Don't litter, Paulo. Don't make trash. So the streets of Rome are cleaned up. Nowadays, of course, it's considered cruel and inhumane punishment to hang someone up by their arms for 8 hours. But we still do have a few of these signs up to remind you to keep Rome clean. Come on right down this way, you guys. Ponte Sisto, and that was the first bridge built since antiquity. It was built in the late 1400s. Pope Sixtus IV built it. How many of you guys have been to the Vatican? How many of you guys are going to the Vatican? All right, you're all going there because you want to see the Sistine Chapel, right? That's why you guys went or are going. Also named after Pope Sixtus IV, big-time builder. But he realized as soon as he started building this bridge that bridges are very expensive endeavors, and he didn't have enough money to finish it. So he has to raise taxes in Rome. But he doesn't raise taxes on everybody. He just raises taxes on the #1 profession in Rome in the late 1400s. The clergy? No. Prostitution, guys. This is the bridge that prostitutes built right there. Now then, in the mid-1600s, there's a beautiful woman who lives in Viterbo, just outside of Rome, and her name is Donna Olympia. But they never call her Donna Olympia here in Rome. They would call her La Pimpaccia today. Now, La Pimpaccia doesn't translate out nowadays. It's an old Italian phrase. So don't go around calling people La Pimpaccias, because they would just look at you really oddly. It'd be like insulting someone in Chaucer-style English, right? It'd be really, really bizarre. But basically it means the big bad dick. It's a loose translation, but that's roughly what it means. She was a beautiful young woman in Viterbo who decided she wanted to move to Rome, to the bright lights and the big money. Now, what's a beautiful young girl going to do to make money? Lots of money really quickly? No, she's not building bridges, guys. She's going to do it the other old-fashioned way. She's going to marry an older, rich man. And she finds a man who's 35 years older than she is, which in the 1600s means he's on borrowed time. His name was Pamphilio Pamphili. I can't make that up. That's his name. They named him the exact same thing twice. His last name is his first name. Now she's married to him for only 5 years before he dies. And in those 5 years, she realized, guys, it's not really all about money. It's about power. Because her brother-in-law had become Pope Innocent X. The day after they bury her husband, the widow Donna Olympia, the widow La Pimpaccia, saunters into the Pope's audience hall, wearing her most revealing dress. She leans over, whispers something into the ear of the Pope, at which point Pope Innocent X dismisses the rest of his court and retires to his private chambers, La Pimpaccia in tow. She does not leave his side from that moment forward. She becomes essentially the de facto popess, because every decision that's made in Rome during that time is cleared with her. As a matter of fact, you guys can all see this. If you go to Piazza Navona, and you see that beautiful fountain there by John Lorenzo Bernini, the Fountain of the Four Rivers, yeah. Pope Innocent X hated John Lorenzo Bernini, but he knew who was making the decisions around there, and so he gave a silver model of that fountain to Donna Olympia. She took that silver model, honey, build me a fountain, and next thing you know, we have Piazza Navona. That's how that really happened. But all good things come to an end, guys. And eventually Pope Innocent X is going to die of the plague. Now then, at that point, it's all over for La Pimpaccia. Guys, you can't be a former Pope's mistress here in the city of Rome and expect to get any respect whatsoever. She goes to pay her final respects to the Pope, and people literally spit on the ground after she walks and leave the room. They can't even stand to be in the same room as her. That's kind of what she was hoping for. That's what she was planning on. Because as soon as the last person slid out, she started to take the rings off the Pope's finger. She took all the gold. She took tapestries off the walls. She loaded it all up into a carriage she had parked right outside. And that was it. She had her money. She had a taste of power. She's getting out of Rome, and she's going back to the nice, small, quiet town of Viterbo. She's going to take her carriage down that street that we just went right there. But before she can make it to the other side of the Ponte Sisto, she's going to pay the consequences of her actions. Now, generally speaking, if you're sharing a bed with someone who has the plague, it's a good chance you yourself might have it. And Donna Olympia drops dead of the plague before she reaches the other side of this bridge. Now then, every night, La Pimpaccia rides again. She makes her final run all over again. 5 minutes before sunrise, they say you can see La Pimpaccia's ghost come up this alleyway right here. But this time, her carriage isn't driven by 4 horses, it's driven by 4 demons. And just before she reaches the other side of that bridge, she disappears. Now, this is not a ghost that you want to go hunting, guys, because this ghost carries with it a 24-hour curse. Now, if you see the ghost of La Pimpaccia, you will not be around to see the next sunrise. So, if you're around during the sunlight hours, the sunrise hours, this time of year it means you'd be up really early. In the summertime it means you're out really late. But if you're up early for an early morning walk, stay away from this bridge. Okay? If you guys really, really need to cross the river, 5 minutes down the streets, there is the Isola Tiberina. Not only are the bridges there not cursed, There's a hospital on an island in the middle of the river. You guys will be as safe as possible. So please, guys, be safe around the dawn hours here in the city of Rome. Let's head on down this way. Like, you know, togas and all that. We just call our city council the Roman Senate. Even today, we still call it that. Now, he had a very, very simple pledge. If I'm elected to run the Roman Senate, I will throw the biggest party Rome has ever seen. Apparently, that's all it took for him to get elected. And he did exactly as he promised. When he was elected, for one night and one glorious night only, he switched out the piping for Il Mascarone, and she ran not with water, but with white wine. They came and filled their glasses again and again. I'm sure the next day, for a second round, found out, nope, they've been switched back to water. So just this one night, Il Mascarone ran with white wine. However, they have an expression in Rome, it's in one day that Il Mascarone will run with wine again, which basically means that would be really great if it happens, but don't hold your breath. It'd be nice, but it's not going to happen. But while Il Mascarone may never run again with wine, if it's a lifelong goal of yours to drink wine out of a fountain near Rome, you're in luck. Every year, the first weekend of October, we just missed it, but come back next year. The first weekend of October on Sunday, they have the Festival of the Grapes in Marino, which is about a 15-minute train ride away. What they do is, at 6 o'clock on Sunday, they switch out the piping for the fountain, the main square, and have white wine run off. In 2008, they messed up. Whoever's in charge of rerouting the water, instead of rerouting the wine to the fountain, rerouted wine to all of the buildings in the piazza and not to the fountain. So as they do the countdown, nothing happens, and all of a sudden this guy comes out, his arm just shoots out of his window with a full glass of white wine and starts screaming, "Moralico! Moralico!" And so they refer to it as the miracle of Marino. So, if you guys want a good glass of wine out of the fountain, or you just want to know where I'll be the first weekend of October, come on up to Marino and we'll share fountain wine together. It's actually pretty tasty. Come on down this way here. 1605. I love that. It's only 400 years old. It's the new one. So that's what we have going on right there. That's all there is to it. There's nothing extra. Yeah. In the Church of San Giacomo. This here is a replacement because the original one was deemed miraculous. Now in the late 1700s, some boys were playing ball here. One of them lost, got upset, kicked his ball against the wall. It bounced off the wall and smacked her right in the face. At which point Mary freaked out and her eyes started to dart back and forth and back and forth. Now I did this for about an hour, and some people in the neighborhood saw it, but that was not miraculous. It was considered just an interesting day. Why? Well, because when you have an actual miracle, you must have 3 people have a written and signed account of what happened. You need to have witnesses to this miracle. They had witnesses, but they didn't have anyone who could read and write, and so, an interesting day. But in 1796, going back to everyone's favorite short, angry Frenchman, Napoleon comes with his troops and is here for 3 days, and over the course of 3 days, Mary's eyes don't stop moving. The entire time Napoleon's here, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Thousands of people see this, and yes, out of 1,000 people, out of 1,000 Romans, you typically find 3 of them that are literate enough to write down their experience. And so it is an official miracle. She's not the only one that freaked out why Napoleon was here. As a matter of fact, there's another one over by Largo, Argentina that cried blood for 3 days. So, apparently the Virgin Mary, a big fan of Napoleon. Also, on a side note, did you guys know that Napoleon could barely speak French? He was born on Corsica a year after it turned over from being independent to being French, and he struggled mightily speaking French. Instead he spoke Corsican, which would be close to Italian as opposed to French, so yeah. And it also wasn't all that short, it was just shorter than like other kings and queens. It was like normal size for bad parents. Going back this way here, guys. Now our last story of the evening has a little bit of everything, guys. It's going to have some misbehaving popes, it's going to have some public executions, and it's even going to have a ghost of them. The Cenci family was a very rich family here in Rome, and this story concerns Federico Cenci. Federico Cenci was a very, very wealthy man, and he was a philanthropist. He would run a charity for the homeless people of Rome. So he'd give them food and shelter, these types of things. And it was Federico Cenci was the main man. Then his wife, his second wife, Lucrezia Cenci. Then you have his oldest son, Giacomo Cenci. His young, beautiful daughter, Beatrice Cenci, who was about 20 years old at the time. And then the youngest son, Bernardo Cenci, who was 9 years old. Beatrice Cenci was the face of this charity. She'd always be she'd be the one greeting people as they came into the homeless shelter. She was the face around town. Everyone knew who she was. In fact, if you guys see a painting that looks suspiciously like the girl with the pearl earring here in Rome, it's the girl in brown looking over like this, it's not that. It's Guido Reni's portrait of Beatrice Cenci. Because Reni never saw a painting that he didn't want to rip off and call his own. Now then, unfortunately, the public face of Federico Cenci was not the private face of Federico Cenci, because Federico Cenci liked to go home at night and get drunk. And when he got drunk, he would beat and rape his wife and children. And it got so bad that the people around could hear the cries coming from their palace. You can't complain in the 1500s to your local police force that the richest man in the area is doing bad things, because they're probably working for him. So instead they go over the police force and they go to the big guy in charge. They go up to Pope Clement VIII himself. What the people didn't know is that Pope Clement VIII and Federico Cenci had grown up together. And when the Pope hears this, he calls Federico Cenci to his office and says, "Fede, look, we've known each other since we were this tall. I know what's going on, but I know this isn't true. But what the people are saying, you know, things are getting out of hand. We need to let this blow over. I need you to get out of Rome for a few months. Here are the keys to a country villa I own just outside of the city of Rome. Take the family, let this all blow over a little bit." So Federico Cenci takes the Pope's keys, he goes out to the country villa, and without the pressures of working during the day, he gets drunk all day long, and all the things that go along with him getting drunk happen as well. Until one day, Federico Cenci has a bit too much to drink, and he trips and falls and stumbles and breaks his neck as he tumbles down the stairs. However, as soon as the coroner saw the body, they suspected foul play, because somehow or another, as he tumbled down the stairs, Federico Cenci had managed to slice his own throat from ear to ear. Big killer just kind of tossed him down there, right? So, it's an accident. So of course, the whole Cenci family was thrown in the Corte Sabella. As they were held in the Corte Sabella for a few days, they were then marched to Castel San Angelo, and literally in the cells right next to Giordano Bruno, they're going to be tortured to get a confession. After hanging by her hair for a few hours, Beatrice Cenci finally breaks down and says, "Yes, I did it. I admit it. I killed my father. I did it on my own. No one in my family knew anything else about it. Punish me, not them." What's really odd about this is her mother had said the exact same thing a few hours beforehand. Her brother would say the same thing a few hours later, and even her 9-year-old brother, Bernardo Cenci, would say, "I did it. I killed my father. No one helps me. Don't punish them. Punish me." Of course, none of them are telling the truth. There is actually a soldier who most likely did it. But the Pope doesn't care, because now every member of the Cenci family is admitted to murder, which means they can all be punished by death, which means there'll be no one to inherit the money. You know what happens when you can't, and when there's no one left to inherit money, and there's no will? It goes to whoever's in charge of that city. Even today, that's what would happen. And guess who's in charge of Rome in 1599? Pope. And in 1599, we were building a little something. A very large something. The biggest church of its type in the entire world. St. Peter's. And guys, every little bit helps. And so, early September 11th, 1599, the Cenci family is brought out in front of Castel San Angelo. A huge crowd gathers, and they start to loudly protest these executions. There's 3 older ladies in the front who are literally yelling and screaming for the Pope to let Beatrice Cenci, this beautiful, kind, giving young woman, go. But their cries fall on deaf ears. Lucrezia Cenci is the first brought out onto the chopping block, and in front of her 3 children. The executioner's going to raise a blade, and he's going to behead her. They then take her head and they nail it by the hair to the door of Castel San Angelo. Next, they bring out Giacomo Cenci, the oldest son. And just as the executioner raises the blade, the Pope says, wait, stop. We're not barbarians. It has his mother's blood on it. Here, use the mallet instead. So Giacomo Cenci will be bludgeoned to death. Beatrice Cenci is the next one out, and literally, there's pandemonium. The crowd goes absolutely nuts. These 3 old ladies are actually pulling their hair out, begging the Pope to stop. as Beatrice Cenci out, the Pope gives the executioner a sword. As the executioner slices her head off, she decapitates Beatrice Cenci. Her head actually rolls off the stage into the arms of these three women, who, according to the legend, take up the head and dust the dirt off it before it's smashed and also hung up.
Ok, ma non le dico, non le dico.
Pope Clement VIII stands up and says, wait. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Pope Clement VIII. I want to show you guys all how I earned that name. I wish to grant this boy here clemency. Castrate him and throw him in the Corte de Sabella. So a 9-year-old boy would be publicly castrated and thrown in the Corte de Sabella. He actually dies that very night. He bleeds to death, and then that's the end of the Cenci family. So the Cenci family is dead, and the Pope gets his money. Now then, Beatrice Cenci is the face of anti-child abuse every year in Italy. Every year in Italy, the whole month of September is dedicated to help prevent child abuse. And that portrait by Guido Reni of Beatrice Cenci with her head over her shoulders is the official portrait for this movement. However, if you're here in Rome on September 11th and you're on this bridge, you may see the ghost of Beatrice Cenci. All day long, she walks up and down this bridge right here with her severed head in her arms. Now ladies, don't worry. You'll never have to worry about seeing the ghost of Beatrice Cenci. Women can't see her. But if you're with that special someone, and you see them start to act a little funny, maybe start to act a little squeamish, it might be time for an upgrade. See, Beatrice Cenci's ghost only reveals herself to men who have evil hearts. So, I figure, on a tour called The Dark Heart of Rome, there's no better way to end it than telling you a story about a ghost who appears to dark hearts. Guys, thank you very much for spending your Sunday night with us. You guys have been an absolutely great group.